Hello, everyone, and inside today's Locked On Canadiens, it's all about the defense, baby.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1055 of Locked On Canadiens, your daily Montreal Canadiens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every single day of the week, wherever you get your daily podcast, Google, Apple, Spotify, or if you're watching my shining face on youtube.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNNHL for $20 off your first purchase. You might be wondering, who is this guy talking to me on a podcast? For those of you who might be new here, I am Scott Metla. I am one of your hosts here at Locked On Canadiens. My co-host is out of town. She will be back the back half of this week, so don't worry. You are not stuck with me permanently. And if some of you people think that we're better apart, you're wrong. Anyways, yesterday we kind of did a recap on the end of the Laval Rocket season. We talked about Kent Hughes' offseason checklist and just, is this going to be a playoff team last year? You can listen to that wherever you get your podcasts and whatnot. And in today, the biggest question people have asked over and over and over and over again, going into this offseason, even going into this NHL season, is what are you going to do with everyone on defense here? The Canadiens have a lot of defensive prospects, including players who have played meaningful NHL games this year, and just so many bodies for so many spots. And I don't mean many in the second sense, is that there's only so many spots available. You know, we're saying there's only 7 at the NHL level and then maybe 8 at the AHL level, depending on the rotation of things. The Canadiens are going to be thin on spots, and I am looking at the eyes on the prize depth chart right now. Justin Blades, our managing editor, does an incredible job with this always, and I am looking at this right now. This is everybody right now who will be signed through next season. So as we look at things, everybody right now who is under contract with the Canadiens at the end of this season that will likely be back next year. On the left side at the NHL level, Mike Matheson, Caden Gooley, Arbor Xhekaj, Jordan Harris, Lane Hutson, all signed through next year. Arbor Xhekaj, I believe, is up for an extension this offseason, but he's an RFA, counting him as a guy that will be coming back. On the right side, David Savard, Jonathan Kovacevic, Chris Weidman is on there. Chris Weidman will very likely go to UFA status at the end of this, dropping down to the AHL with people who went through waivers and whatnot at the end of the season. Jaden Struble on the left side, William Trudeau, Matthias Norlinder. Norlinder is an RFA this offseason, someone that I have a lot of questions of whether or not they're going to bring him back or let him go. It could be anything. On the right side, David Reinbacher, Logan Mailloux, Justin Barron, and then UFA will be Brady Keeper. Down in the ECHL, Miguel Torini is the only one signed to, I believe that is an AHL deal. Unless, I don't believe he signed an NHL deal. I could be potentially wrong in that regard. I believe the Canadiens still have his rights and signed him to a contract there. In the prospect pool there, some of these guys are playing professionally in Europe. Some of them are in the NCAA and beyond, in the CHL. On the left side, Adam Engstrom, Luke Middlestat, who is playing in Minnesota, but Terry Nurmi, who I believe is playing in Liga, Bogdan Kanyushkov, who finished his KHL season about a month ago, Dmitry Kostenko, also playing in Russia, and then Danil Sobolev, who I believe just finished up his final OHL season with, I want to believe it was Brantford, the Bulldogs there. That is a lot of bodies in a lot of spots right now. And I want to start by sussing out the names that I think, no matter what, will be on this NHL roster next year, because there's names that are like locked in, and I can see 3 of them that I'm staring at right now, and then a bunch of who actually knows right now. We're going to do that. We're going to jump into the guys I think are going to be right on that fringe or might play in the AHL just because of space reasons, and then which defenders are going to be traded. We're going to end the show with some speculation and some, let's call it game theory, and I mean that in the least ironic way possible. Going into next season, Mike Matheson and David Savard, I think, are locks to be on the NHL team, assuming Savard is not traded, and we'll talk about that later on. Caden Gooley is also nailed on to be an NHL player next year. And I would also think that Arbor Jacki will fit in there as well. Those are the names that I see here. Mike Matheson makes a ton of sense. If you're thinking otherwise, I am begging you to imagine this Canadiens defense and the way this team played this year without Mike Matheson being in this lineup. He played every game this year. When he was hurt last year, the Canadiens defense and breakouts suffered. And when he was healthy this year, career highs across the board. And I hate using the phrase underrated, but when I think of someone who might be underrated, legitimately, I think Mike Matheson fits that bill right now. And David Savard, this team loves David Savard. Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon like David Savard. Martin St. Louis loves David Savard. The players love David Savard. He is not the guy he used to be. And he is, again, being asked to carry a pretty heavy weight in his role with Montreal as guys went through injuries, players got sent down, trying to find the right combination of things. And yeah, playing with Lane Hutson made him look great because Lane Hutson is a jitterbug out there and he's phenomenal. I think Savard is going to be here into next season, and they're going to find out where the Canadiens are in the playoff race. We'll save trade talk there, but I think as of right now, I am penciling Matheson, Savard, and Guhle in as locks for this NHL team for 100% absolute certainty. Arbor Jacki is the guy I am next closest to saying is going to be on this NHL team next year. I think they were really pleased with what he managed to do with his AHL stint and how he used that when he came up to the NHL here. And I think that he's continued to leave a strong impression in a lot of ways here, and that he has so much potential to build on. He can skate, he can hit, he can fight. He's one of the hardest shots in the NHL today. The NHL posted he has one of I believe the 5 fastest slap shots taken this year. He's absolutely a guy that I think they want to have in the lineup. There is something to work with there. It is up to him to continue to hit those next levels in terms of being there, if that makes sense. You can't get by on, oh, well, I think I'm talented. It's actually doing that. Jordan Harris is an interesting case. If he is still here, he's going to be on this NHL team. He is your perfect 5, 6, 7th defenseman. Steady, not flashy, does a lot. There are teams that I think are going to be really interested in him, and we'll talk about those later on. My other thought is I think Jaden Struble has a very, very good shot at making this Canadiens team right out of camp. He was barely on the Rocket team this season, and he just ascended to being an NHL player. He's physical. He skates well. He reads plays well. When he and Harris were at Northeastern together, I wrote an article. Harris was calm and that steadying presence and smooth and easygoing. And Jaden Struble was a wrecking ball, a little bit rough around the edges, couldn't quite narrow his game down yet. And then all of a sudden this year it just clicked. He's not going to put up a ton of points, at least not right away. But I watched Struble play. He steps up. He reads his gaps. He carries the play. He knows when to jump into things. He is someone that I can see them looking at next year and going, okay, we have Caden Guhle, who is Caden Guhle, and we have Arbor Jacki, who is Arbor Jacki. What if we took Guhle's skating and some of that upside there from Arbor Jacki and the physicality and put it into one player, and you come out with Jaden Struble here? Is his ceiling as high as Caden Guhle? No, maybe not. But I think he has all the potential to be a really solid third pairing defenseman in the NHL. And I think that they really liked what they saw. They wouldn't have kept him all year. And then that kind of leaves an open spot on that right side. Jonathan Kovacevic will be there. We know Guhle and Harris, and I believe Jacki can all play flip-flop position there. It's kind of an open spot for someone like Justin Barron or Logan Mailloux or David Reinbacher to claim a spot. Barron, being the veteran, I think has the inside track as of right now. But speaking of players who need to stamp a claim on something, this is that moment. I like Justin Barron's potential. It is just when he is not on his game, Justin Barron is not what the Canadiens need. And with Mailloux making his huge strides this year, with David Reinbacher coming in, with Lane Hutson coming in, with Adam Engstrom potentially coming in, you have names around you. It is a do or die season for Justin Barron at this point. I think his NHL prowess at the end of the season this year absolutely helps him. However, can you continue to do that? It remains to be seen. We're going to shift kind of our focus to the AHL prospects a little bit right now, too, because I know what everyone's thinking. Well, what about Lane Hutson? What about David Reinbacher? What about Logan Mailloux? Are they not good enough for the NHL? And well, we're going to get into that and who I think has the inside edge coming out of the AHL and which of our favorites might spend some time there again next year, all coming up next. But first, as I said off the top of the show, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. It is the middle of baseball season, or the start of baseball season, I should say. And you want to go watch your favorite players sock some dingers, eat some hot dogs, drink a couple of cold pops, and have a good time. But you go to try and buy tickets and you go through, I don't know what my seats look like. You get dinged with hidden fees. You just have trouble navigating sites. Let me tell you, now that Game Time is the official authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, you can get tickets even easier and the prices go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With the lowest price guarantee, they take all the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets at Game Time. And like I said, you can see your view from your seat. And when you say, I want to sit there, I'm going to Boston in a couple of months. I'm using Game Time to find seats. I want to sit on the monster. I want to know what my view is going to look like. And the best part is when I go to checkout, I'm not getting dinged with hidden fees there like everywhere else. So right now, take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKDOWNNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Some terms apply. Again, just create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens. I am your solo host today. I am, of course, Scott Matla, one half of Locked On Canadiens. You can follow me on Twitter at Scott Matla at your own discretion. It is the middle of playoff season. And just to make if you were here from another team that is in the playoffs, yes, I hate your team specifically. No, it's nothing personal. That's just who I am as a person. It's my greatest failing. We're talking defense today. Much ado about defense. We have so much going on. I can hear my neighbors upstairs. I believe the Bruins just scored again because I can hear them through my ceiling. Anyways, we just got done talking about who I think are going to be the nailed on NHL players next year. And to be quite honest, it's up in the air a little bit. So now the question becomes, well, Scott, what about all these new guys that showed up? What about David Reinbacher? What about Lane Hutson? What about Adam Engstrom, who's currently playing in the SHL finals in an incredible run with Rogel? And yes, Pat, I know I was unfair in saying that I wanted his season to end and come in here. I apologize. Mea culpa. Whatever. Pardon me for wanting good prospects. I know I'm the worst. But people are going to ask, hey, where does all of these people fit in? Can Adam Engstrom make the NHL team next year? Sure. I don't see why not. I don't think it's likely to happen because the left side is heavily stacked. And I kind of look at the defense here. No matter which way you shake it out, there will be a talented prospect playing in the AHL next year. More than one, actually, to set kind of the bar here for that. Out of Lane Hutson, out of David Reinbacher, out of Logan Mailloux, out of potentially Jaden Struble, out of Adam Engstrom, some of these guys are going to be playing in the AHL next year just because it is better than not getting playing time as the seventh rotating defenseman. That's why you have Jonathan Kovacevic, who is a perfectly cromulent 5'6", 7" defenseman. Actually perfect for that role. Plug him, play him, unplug him, put somebody else in, and it's fine. You want your young prospects to develop. So I think, as much as I think Jaden Struble can make this team, unless there are trades, I think he's also someone that they're going to rely on in Laval next year. And pairing him up with David Reinbacher is almost a no-brainer kind of thing here. I think that David Reinbacher is going to start in the AHL next year, and he's going to play a ton of minutes. And I think right behind that, Logan Mailloux is going to be in the AHL next year. He's going to play a ton of minutes and potentially probably force the Canadiens' hand. He might be that third pairing right defenseman who makes it out of camp there. His offensive upside is there. Can he round out the rest of his game? He's taken those steps, yes, but there's a chance he's going to start in the AHL. William Trudeau is going to start in the AHL. He had a great camp last year and then didn't get the spot, and then it all just kind of fell apart on him. And it took him a while to get it back, and once he got it back, perfectly stable, lovely top 4 AHL defenseman, potential bottom pairing NHL defenseman. Adam Engstrom is the one that I'm most curious about. He's a left-handed defenseman, or a left defenseman in here. And on that side, you have Struble, you have Trudeau. You're probably going to bring in potentially an AHL vet like they did with Toby Paquette-Bisson this year, Olivier Galipeau, to fit into that role a little bit. I wonder if Engstrom is going to be the guy that jumps in, and he is with a Reinbacher. He is with a Mailloux. He's with whoever is on the right-hand side in Laval on the third pair. He'll be somewhere in that mix there. And now, and you're probably thinking, Sky, you're missing a name here. You're missing Lane Hutson. And this is where I'm having the most difficulty right now. Lane Hutson offensively is already the second best offensive defenseman the Canadiens have. He is by far the most creative defenseman that they have at any level. Mike Matheson put up 60-plus points as an NHL defenseman this year. All respect to Lane Hutson. I don't know if he can do that yet. I'm sure that he can, and I have absolutely no doubt that he has the creativity to make that happen. But right now, Matheson is the guy they're going to lean on to play those minutes every single night. But I look at Hudson and I go, this guy has talent. A lot of talent. It's a lot of offensive talent. His defensive game has always been a work in progress, and that is not something we've ever shied away from talking about here on Locked On Canadiens or in general, is that, hey, working on his spacing. He's not big physically. He's going to get overpowered in some of these situations there. They need to find him a partner that can help take some of that load off. I also look at it as he got the timing down. He got better as the game against the 2 games against Detroit went. Can he continue that growth, however? I think he can. I think he's smart. And the question becomes, I look at the left side of this defense here. Gooley, Jacky, Matheson right now. Jordan Harris also there. Jaden Struble also on the cusp. If you have Lane Hutson coming in, do you want Lane Hutson playing third pairing minutes and getting a lot of that power play time, deservedly so? Or do you kind of want Lane Hutson to be first pair in the AHL? You could stick him next to David Reinbacher, and quite honestly, perfect. Reinbacher is that steady, kind of calm rock presence there. He doesn't get phased by a lot of things. He just knows where he needs to be. And Lane Hutson is, I injected this feral badger with straight up cocaine and Mountain Dew, and I'm going to let him go in the offensive zone. And he starts spinning around and doing all this cool stuff that you don't know why it's happening, but it's happening. And I think that Lane Hutson, among everybody else here, out of all the prospects, I'm no longer counting Caden Gooley or Arbor Jacky as prospects. They are guys who are in the NHL. They are NHL quality players. We know this. I think Lane Hutson has the leading edge. He's too gifted offensively for this team to be like, I don't know if that's the right move. It's 100% the right move to put him there. You compare him with David Savard at the NHL level, or if you want to put him on a third pair, maybe Arbor Jacky is that guy that plays alongside him. That's a lot of chaos on one pairing, one way or the other. I think Hudson's I don't want to say a shoe-in because things can happen. There's development camp and rookie camp and an off season for a reason. But I think he's as close to a lock for a prospect as you can get. And for David Reinbacher, I think, okay, there's a path to an NHL job there. You might be paying bottom pairing minutes behind whomever, but I think the opportunity's there. I also think that they're going to be very patient with him. They like what the Rocket staff has done with a lot of players. I look at Joshua. I look at what they did for Jacky this year, what they've done with Logan Mailloux and Jaden Struble, even getting William Trudeau back to where he needs to be. And I think they're going to be patient with him. And I think you're going to watch David Reinbacher play a lot of minutes this year for the Rocket. Logan Mailloux is right there as well. He has the opportunity for that third pairing spot. But I also think, hey, we're going to let you continue to work on your game. They don't need to rush anything next year just because they think they're going to be a playoff team. If they are a playoff team, like if they are confirmed, like we are going to be, like they're in the hunt all season, okay, then I understand going forward at the deadline. But if you're one of those teams that it's like we got off to a hot start and then went Buffalo sabering as you would, I'd rather they be cautious and take this opportunity to build the pillars for the actual push to the playoffs here. Because having a David Reinbacher who has adjusted to the North American speed and has gotten his timing and everything down and is tapped into some of that offensive upside, great. Logan Mailloux, who has learned to better process, his reads and his timing and learn to keep his head on straight a little bit, great. Jaden Struble continue to evolve. Lane Hutson continuing to adjust to NHL speed. Those are more important than like any one single season kind of record in that. I'd rather they be patient, but to answer the question for this, I think Hudson makes the team. I think Reinbacher and Mailloux will start the season in Laval. They will not be the only popular prospects in Laval next year. Just a fact of the matter, a lot of bodies, not enough space, unless bodies are traded. And that's right, we're going to end the show. We're going to talk trade speculation, who could be on their way out, and why, coming up next. But first, we are deep in the NBA playoffs. The NHL playoffs have begun. Baseball's in full swing. There's golf season. We're somehow not that far from the NFL draft as well this week. And FanDuel has everything you need to place a bet on every game going right now. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. Telling you, the Bruins are winning. Are they going to do it? Is Toronto going to shoot themselves in the foot? What is Connor McDavid going to do? Are there going to be 13 goals in another playoff game? One playoff game? You can use FanDuel to find parlays, bets, anything that you are possibly looking for. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on. Make your first bet an automatic win with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Today's show is also brought to you by the folks at Policy Genius. Life insurance is important. If you're like me, I'm getting married. I'm going to have someone that is depending on me. And God forbid something happens. I want to make sure I have the right policy in place so that I can make sure they are taken care of. But I also don't want to feel overwhelmed or that I am wasting my time sifting through all of this on my own. Policy Genius helps you compare options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to talk you through everything. And you can easily compare quotes from America's top insurers with just a few clicks to find your lowest price. So check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Just head to policygenius.com/lockedonnhl or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quote and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonnhl. We are back. It is our final segment here at Locked On Canadiens, and I am very excited because I cannot wait to put the playoffs on behind me while I edit this show here. But we are figuring out now the defense, or trying to. We're putting on our thinking caps, which is mostly just empty Mountain Dew and energy drink cans, all wrapped together around my very, very short-haired head right now. And we're going to talk trades, and I know everybody loves trades. So the question is, hey, we have all these players, and then all these vets, and then all these other things. What do we do with everybody? Everybody can't play in the AHL, and everyone can't play in the NHL, and we don't want to send people down to the ECHL despite demanding the ECHL be used for development. Simple. I'm going to put on my Kent Hughes hat, and I'm going to start trading people or theorize who might be being traded instead. And the biggest name above anything else I am looking at it right now, David Savard is the #1 option to be traded at some point here. There were calls about him at the deadline this year, allegedly, but the team liked him, didn't want to trade him right now. And I think, honestly, they made the right call not trading him this year. And I know that might be controversial, but I look at how he kind of helped some of this team here. Is he a shutdown elite Norris NHL defenseman? No. but I think there's something to be said about a guy that this team loves in the room, that this staff loves, and that everyone loves being around. Just nothing but a true sweetheart from everyone I've heard that's ever had to work alongside him. However, 1 year left on his deal, Stanley Cup champion, plays a style that NHL GMs, despite all the evidence proving that this is a bad idea, love. And with 1 year left on his deal, and I've said it on this show, I absolutely could see him being traded in the Joel Edmondson deal this offseason. I think they're going to want to get as much value for him as possible. I think they will try to hold on to him unless they get an offer that meets what Kent Hughes wants, which I assume is first round pick, prospect, something around there. They're going to ask a lot because you always start asking high and then work your way down to maybe what you actually wanted. I think Savard is by far the most likely name. It just makes too much sense for him not to be. The next one I'm looking at is Jordan Harris. And I love Jordan Harris on this show. I think he is a perfect, just plug and play defenseman all over the lineup. First pair, second pair, third pair, seventh defenseman, sometimes second power play, penalty kill leader there. I think he brings a lot of value at a very low cost contract. He's one of those guys that I think flies under the radar because he doesn't do anything with flash. He's just there to be a consistent NHL defenseman. Let's say Brett Kulak, like maybe not as deep in the fancy stats as that, but Brett Kulak was a very underappreciated defenseman for a long time. Still potentially is. I'm not sure what his numbers look like in Edmonton, but I think Harris has kind of filled that role there right now. I also think that because of him being younger, being relatively cheap with some term, and being that flexible kind of moldable piece, Jordan Harris could very easily find himself moving out this offseason. Not because they want him to, but because it makes the most sense and it's an opportunity for him. I don't think Mike Matheson's going to be one of those guys on there. This defense without Mike Matheson actually terrifies me. There's a lot of potential, and that's the word, potential in there. Mike Matheson is a realized top pairing NHL defenseman. Yoinking that kind of out of there that makes me a little bit nervous. The other name, and I don't think this is a thing they're actually going to be interested in, but I know GMs have called and they've asked and they've been told directly, flat out, no. Teams have asked about Arbor Xhekaj. And again, I love Arbor Xhekaj. I don't think Bergevin knew he would turn out this well based on what he saw in him, but the staff that has worked with him and gotten him to that next level with the previous regime and this one and his OHL teams deserves a lot of credit because no one could have predicted this, I think, right away. Even his most staunch supporters originally. This is incredible. But I'm looking at all the names on this list here that I think would be available. And I think the package that you could get in an Arbor Xhekaj trade because of how nasty and mean and the heavy shot and everything there. We talked about it with Savard. Now make him younger, make him a better skater, make him a lot angrier and a lot more, you stand a little bit taller kind of thing. And Arbor Xhekaj gets you a lot in a trade. I think they will field calls. They will not say yes to any of them unless they get a package you truly cannot refuse. But I would be shocked if it's not him. I think Savard, Harris, and then I think Jonathan Kovacevic is also one of those guys. I like Kovacevic. I think he's your perfect seventh defenseman to just swap in and out. But at some point, you got to make room for other players. Whether that keeps Harris on the team or gives Struble a spot or whoever else claims it, I think Kovacevic is one of those guys that they went, you were good for what we needed. That time has now passed. And maybe he comes into camp next year if he's still here and just lights it up because I believe this is his last year on this contract. And teams love like I said, they love a utility guy. There are teams out there that I think would see what Jonathan Kovacevic would do and would be like, I can work with this. I can turn this into something. Even though it's just a steady, everyday third pairing defenseman, I absolutely think that's the guy there. We also want to hear from you. You can tweet us at @LO_Canadiens. Who do you think's getting traded? Who do you think's going to stick around? Is until next year full-time? Can David Reinbacher make the jump? Where's Adam Engstrom going? Who's going out of town here? Tweet us at @LO_Canadiens, LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com. You can follow myself at Scott Matla on Twitter, my co-host at The Active Stick as well. Be back tomorrow. Maybe do a season 3 up, 3 down. I'm going to take a look at some of the other games going on. Might sip a little haterade because that's who I am. All that and more. We'll see y'all next time.